Hello, everyone. Welcome to Regal Live Series. This series aims to enable coaches to build a successful, prosperous coaching business by enabling the coaches to become the best that they can be. Regal Unlimited is a leadership development company through coaching and coach training, and we celebrated a decade of excellence, and we're turning 11 soon. This is our third edition of the Regal Live Series, and I'm honored to invite our guest speakers for today. Mr. Subash CV is the founder CEO of Regal Unlimited. He is an ICF MCC coach. He has helped leaders excel and improve the leadership quotient while leading happy lives, and is also an ICF mentor coach. Mr. PK Narayanan is a CEO coach for the last 11 years. He helps CEOs and business leaders scale up their business and enhance their leadership presence so that they can position their businesses for long term success. So, Mr. PK, Mr. Subash, based on the chats, their responses from our previous live, we have selected the topic for today's discussion, which I'm sure is something that will really interest our viewers and listeners. How can a coach command a premium pricing for their offering? So, Mr. PK, I leave the stage to you. Your initial thoughts, please.
Thank you, Anirud. Happy to be here. So, how a coach could command a premium pricing for their offering? When it comes to pricing, two things matter. One is the ability of the client to pay, and the second is the willingness of the client to pay. So, the ability of the client to pay is a straight one, whether they can afford it or not. When it comes to willingness to pay, three things matter: perceived value, and perceived value. So once the ability to pay is a tick, the next question or the important question to ask is, how do I create perceived value for my offering? So here, some of the thoughts are: one is having a very strong positioning, clearly positioning oneself, choosing a specific area to play, servicing a select segment of people, addressing a set of pain areas that we are familiar with, increasingly being seen as a coach to go to in that area, consistently communicating value with the prospective target segment. So choosing an area of coaching practice and doing everything possible to be seen, to be heard, and noticed in that area, and being available when people search there are extremely important. So having a strong positioning is the first and foremost to create perceived value. The second aspect to create a high perceived value is having a strong and visible differentiator. We need to identify our own differentiator, our competitive advantage. What is that we do differently? What is that our clients get from us that they don't get from others? And then articulating it, communicating it consistently and clearly in a manner in which our target segment understands it. This is extremely important for creating perceived value.
So, Mr. PK, if I may summarize quickly, there are 2 points that you mentioned. One is strong positioning. The second is the competitive advantage. And the way they both tie in together is through consistency. And this is what improves your perceived value over time.
Yeah.
So, if I may ask you, what can the viewers or listeners starting after the session, what are the first baby steps they may take towards strong positioning? USP may take some time, but towards strong positioning, what are the first baby steps that they may take?
They need to use their experience, expertise, their credibility, their reputation already there in the market in some other role, not as a coach, because coach is a new role that we are starting with. So to bring the whole self and creating and choosing an area to service is the first and foremost. And choosing that area, creating a positioning statement for oneself, why somebody from that area must be looking at you for getting the coaching solution.
So this ties into our previous sessions also. Experience as an enabler and not as a baggage.
Absolutely. Whether one likes the term niche or doesn't like the term niche, positioning is a must.
Thank you, Mr. PK. Mr. Subash, if I may ask you, one of the most commonly asked questions from our prospects is discount. So, what is your response, if you may elucidate with an experience, a real life incident, where a prospect has asked for a discount, which you may have refused? How did you manage that situation and close the deal?
So whether it is coaching or coach training, a lot of clients have come up with this request for a discount. I think specifically, I don't know if it is cultural. We are a price sensitive market. It's not, I mean, not even affordability. People who can afford also tend to try for a discount. So my position is very clear that always under promise and over deliver. So whether it is in coaching, I say that if you really look at the value that you're going to get for your investment, don't look at it as an expense. I think PK said that in a previous episode. Don't look at it as an expense, but an investment. If you look at that as an investment, half the problem is solved. Second, look at the potential value that you can create just by achieving the goal. Then anything other than that potential and the larger outcome is icing on the cake. So that's what I tell the executive coaching clients. Coach training is far more easier because if you just break that into the number of hours and the trainers, some of them, two of us MCCs or PCCs, it boils down to a minuscule as a hourly rate that they pay. So that is one. Second, I always say that at any point of time you feel you're not getting the value that you expected. I mean, you should first call me, not even anyone else in the team or the other mentor. So I'm confident that we are consistently delivering a value which is more than what is even perceived at the starting stage of the prospect, whether it is for coaching or coach training. And of course, we take the feedback during and at the end of the session anyway, which is part of the process. So we also get validations from there, saying that are we truly coming up to their expectations?
So, if I may quickly ask this question to both of you, starting with Mr. PK, is it's a fine line, it's a fine balance between the two. What we see is there's always an extreme. Either we do not create enough value, or we create too much value, which kind of reeks of desperation. Where is a sweet spot for you, Mr. PK, in a sales conversation with respect to price?
Good question, Anirud. One of the things that I practice is that never publish. This is a hack actually. Never publish our fees and never be open and announce our price. Always understand what the client requirements are and then present the fees that we are about to charge as appropriate. And again, never use the word fees or charges or any such other word. I always use the word investment, and it has worked well. And the moment we say investment, suddenly and immediately, instantly, there are certain the way it is perceived by the client in a sales conversation. So one is that never to publish our fees. One also is that, Anirudh, to answer your question, never aim to get it right. Never aim to get our pricing right, I mean, because we will never be able to. as there is no perfect fees, there is no perfect price. So never try to achieve that. It's always a discovery. So be on this side or the other side. And I would agree with Subash that it is better to be on the side that client gets more value than they pay us, give more. Because we have to err on either side. We cannot be perfect. Yeah, that's my experience. So there is no perfect price. There is no perfect investment value. So to err on the other side, meaning to err on we giving more than what they pay for, is always better.
Thank you, Mr. PK, for those thoughts. Mr. Subash, the same question to you, as well as just an added dimension. You also brought in the cultural aspect, which is very unique to the subcontinent here. So, keeping the Neti principle that PK brought in, never publish the pricing and never aim to get the pricing right, along with balancing the cultural aspect of the subcontinent, what would be your suggestion in this area? How do not reek of desperation as you create value?
So, again, as PK said, it's a great question. Uh, it's not easy to balance. So, if at all we think it's very easy, we are not selling a product with an MRP. But even on MRP, we look for discount. So, we'll be comfortable, as PK rightly pointed out, not getting it right, because the client comes with some specific objectives, some specific problems, sometimes even crisis. So it's important that you are able to partner with the client at the initial stage in the spirit of coaching to arrive at that what is best for the client. In my case, I'm very particular that I don't go below a particular threshold level, and I'm sure PK is also like that. Very early stage of my coaching practice, I was very particular that I decide the minimum, then I don't go below that. Why I'm bringing this additional element over and above what is asked is, very often I find the reluctances on the part of the coaches to fix that base price. And it's in our mind. And I've always shared this with my mentee coaches that every time I increase the price, I've been surprised by the ease of acceptance from the clients, whether it is corporate or one-to-one. So it's actually, I've experienced that. So every time the increase, I have been reluctant to increase. So it's all the monkeys in our back, or and it's in our mind. So we need to find ways to overcome that. So what I used to say on a lighter note is that I used to say that I'll not go below the threshold and be unfair to my fellow coaches. Early stage. Then I said, once I started training, I said I'll not compete with my mentee coaches, right, by lowering the price. So there have been instances where I've lost deals because of pricing, because then they don't see the value. Right? It's for me, building on PK's point of affordability. They're not. If affordability is an issue, and this is a very big point I'm making on this session. People feel guilty when the client cannot afford them. Coaches feel guilty or to let go. Now, I think that is very silly. If the client cannot afford you, then the client is not ready. Right? And when there have been instances where the client has said that, I don't want to hire any other coaches, I'll come back when I'm ready or when I can afford it. But for me, it's not about money affordability. The client is not ready. Because if the client was ready, the client would have been able to afford me or even another coach who's more expensive. So, to summarize, one is it's in the mind of the coaches to charge. Second, affordability is not just about monetary affordability. Is the client truly ready at all levels? If the client is ready, the universe will take care of funding that prospect. That's it.
So, if I understand from, oh, sorry, Mr. P, please go on.
And just to add to the point, one thing that we need to be very careful and we need to keep our side clean about is that we need to be the best in our craft. There is no two questions about it. The value that we deliver to the client must be of the best quality that we can. And we need to be, constantly, at it, improving our capabilities, whether it is in terms of coaching skills or knowing the area or understanding the pain points of our chosen area. And, we need to be in touch with the segment, and we need to be seen as relevant. We need to be relevant to the segment, and we need to remain relevant. And we need to be at our best in terms of adding value to our clientele. Then only the point in terms of premium pricing is a possibility.
So if I may quickly summarize, one is, Mr. Subash, as you say, that pricing of a coach may be directly proportional to the amount they're willing to receive. And secondly, if I may just add on, even if not the universe, if someone is willing to see value in what we offer, they will beg, borrow, steal to make it happen. And if I understand what the coaches have shared here, be willing to lose the lead if you are confident of the value that you're proposing. So I have a question from our one of our fellow coaches. Thank you, Veronica, for the question. Would ACC be the right stage to understand the niche for self and then start positioning?
Any stage is a good stage. ACC is more than enough.
Mr. Subash, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I also agree. Any stage is good. I fully agree with PK. For me, the first day of coach training is also good time. It's a conscious decision to have your coaching model as the first assignment in our program, because we want you to start thinking, which comes up I think the second session, second day. So even if it is not first, second is a good time. ACC are slightly late if you're not done already. Yeah. By the way, just to back up, sorry to interrupt, the Regal Coaching Consortium, we have a segment for learner coaches. So we feel that learner coaches at the later half of the journey, they are ready to serve the market. So, by then you should be clear with the niche. Yeah, back to you.
So we have a question from Dr. Sai Giridhar. If I may just read out. How do we set or estimate the value for our offerings?
Who else can?
That beautifully summarizes the...
I'll back it with an example. I mean, one-liner, brilliant. I think Richard Branson says, if you can't price your time, who else will?
I think we have a couple of minutes more, coaches. Sanjog asks, thank you, Sanjog, for the question. What yardsticks should one use for measuring the value one adds?
Like any other service, like any other product. When you are going and buying a doctor's service and lawyer's service, a chartered accountant's service, a consultant's service, similar yardsticks.
I want to add one more point. Thanks, PK, for that. Because, I just had this morning, I'd been to doctor for a minor checkup. I went in with some level of question marks and doubts, and but I actually came out with the bonds literally, and actually I went on a small shopping on some pending list because he made me feel so good, right? I think that's the value add that any service provider can give. Yeah.
So look at the industry and how value is measured, and how do you make the client feel? Can be the yardsticks that we can use to measure. So
look at the industry, maybe apple to oranges to lime and everything. Look at what value that you are adding to your segment. We don't need to compare with everyone or anybody under the sun. We can just look at standalone, what is the value that I'm adding to my clients. It can be a function of that. And again, early on, it might be discovery sessions, bounce it off from people who won't judge you, do some discovery sessions, and never be under pressure to find it early on. Be patient, be flexible, find it as you go. Because even after 11 years, I have not found the perfect price.
So, coaches, we have completed 20 minutes successfully today. I thank all the viewers and listeners for tuning in. If I may quickly ask, Mr. PK, your closing comments on the topic for today, and then Mr. Subash.
I would say it is more of our work. It is less to do with the market. I think pricing, premium or standing by it, or having a strong positioning with a differentiator to back it up, and being the best in the craft, and doing some promotions so that people, when they search in the segment, find us. It is more of our internal work, though it may appear that we are struggling with how to price our work. We don't need to go, or we don't need to see outside. It is more of internal work.
My closing remark is every time we coach, we transform the world. Nothing less. We're not just transforming the client and impacting the environment, we're transforming the world. It's priceless. So don't restrict yourself to underprice yourself. Yeah? Happy coaching to everyone. Thanks everyone for joining. See you next week.
Thank you, Anirud.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. See you next week. Have a great evening.
Thank you.